Good evening, and welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of September the 6th, 2023. I am Greg Simmons, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted and notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants participating in the meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Mr. Chairman to introduce and confirm the presence of the commissioners. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Ricky Dobbs,
Present.
Mark Alcaraz,
Present, Chairman.
Commissioner Robinson,
Mr. Chair, President.
and Phil Miller is my name, and I'm here. Miss Carthen is, she's at a conference, so she's not going to be with us tonight, so I don't know what we'll do without her.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. If you would confirm your presence when I call your name. Rob Thomas, our chair, assistant chair. Present. Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Ari Curry.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
Kirk Nicholson.
Present.
And our other member, Mr. Brandon Penniman, is excused tonight. We do have a quorum. Ms. Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff, Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Stewart-Stanley. We have our County Attorney, Michael Coleman. We have our Managing Director of Development Services, James Worthington. We have our Managing Director of Transportation, Suleiman Rana. We have our Senior Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer. Our Senior Planner, Jaquel Johnson. Our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack. And as always, I would like to thank our staff in communications and the Sheriff's Department for being here with us tonight also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners have granted an approval. As far as tonight's procedure goes, I will conduct a public hearing on each matter. Planning and zoning staff will introduce each application, followed by a full presentation on the application. The applicant or the applicant's representative and members of the public in favor of the application will be able to present their information. They will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak on behalf of an application. Members of the public in opposition to an application will be able to present their information also. They will also have 2 minutes per person for a total of 15 minutes to speak in opposition to an application. After the opposition completes their input or the time is expired, the public hearing will be officially closed. At this point, the staff will clarify any points of the zoning case. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification. And this is not a time for the applicant to represent their application. Following that, the Planning and Zoning Board will entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight will be the approval of the minutes of the August 1st, 2023 regular Joint Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board, after reviewing the minutes, does any Planning and Zoning Board member have any questions, changes, or comments? Hearing none, I will call for a motion to approve the minutes of the August 1st, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 1st, 2023 P&Z meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Rob Thomas, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the matter. All in favor of approving the minutes of the August 1st meeting, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The minutes of the August 1st, 2023 Planning and Zoning Board of Commissioners meetings come to you with a recommendation for approval.
Commissioners, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I motion that we approve the meeting minutes of the Joint Planning and Zoning Board of Commission meeting of August 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor? Mr. Chairman, we have approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. At this point in time, our agenda has been published. However, we're going to make a minor change to the agenda. Ms. Duncan, would you please present the last two items on the agenda one at a time so we can table those matters, please?
Yes, sir.
Possibly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is the request of staff that we table application Z 2023-61 in regard to Chi-Chi's Healthcare and Medical Supply, and Z 2023-62 for Foxhall Investors LLC. Staff continues to work with applicants on both of these applications to work out some details that we don't feel are quite ready to be presented tonight. So it is our request that you do table both of these to our October 3rd, 2023 regular meeting.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection from the applicants? Thank you very much, sir. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the recommendation to table Z 2023-61 and Z 2023-32.
62.
62?
Yes, I apologize.
62 until the October the 3rd, 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table items Z 2023-61 and Z 2023-62 until the October 3rd, 2023 regular scheduled meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve tabling Z 2023-61 and Z 2023-62. Please signify by raising your hand if you're in occurrence. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Z 2023-61 and Z 2023-62 come to the board with a recommendation to table until October the 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Commissioners, we have a recommendation to table Z 2023-61 and Z 2023-62. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I motion that we accept the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board and table those two items until October 3rd, 2023 as recommended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? We are unanimous, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Duncan, is the next item yours, or? Mr. Johnson, would you please present our next item, please?
Yes. Good evening. So the first case we have this afternoon is S2023-46, special use permit for Pine Lane Holdings, LLC. The applicant's request for a special use permit to allow short-term rental located at 6168 Pine Lane, Douglasville, zip code 30135, land lot 131, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 97, lot size .50, half an acre. The existing conditions are the subject property is located on Pine Lane in the Arbonne Forest subdivision, and the site contains a 1,284 heated square foot single family residence built in 1976. Planning comments. Section 318A, subsection 3 of the Douglas County UDC defines traveler accommodations and short-term lodging, vacational rental, home / short-term rental, a dwelling unit or portion thereof that can be rented from a lodging provider, or accessory dwelling unit that can be rented for a duration of occupancy less than 30 days to a single party. Section 318D of the Douglas County UDC states the requirements for a vacational rental home in all agriculture and residential zoning districts. Short-term rental shall be considered a special use and shall require an occupational license from the county, along with the registration with the clerk of the county for payment of motel excess tax by the lodging provider as required under Chapter 12 article of the Code of Ordinances. Before you have the zoning map, the subject parcel is highlighted in red. Before you have an aerial image, the subject parcel is also highlighted in red. This is a survey of the property. And before you have a street view of the property. And based on the special use permit criteria, it does meet the criteria. Staff recommends approval of this requested special use permit S2023-46 with the following findings and directives to staff. Findings: the use will not substantially modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. The use will not negligibly impact the surrounding properties. The granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. And that concludes my presentation on S2023-46. And I believe the applicant is here as well for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. If the applicant, the applicant's representative, or anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application, if you would approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then make whatever comments you would like. You have 2 minutes. Is the applicant here? Okay, seeing no one move, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would, first state your name and address for the record and then make your comments.
Hi, I'm Van Searcy. I am the next door neighbor of that. It's 6156 Pine Lane. The slide that you have up there, the use will not negatively impact surrounding properties. I cannot agree with that statement at all. There's going to be a lot more through traffic in there. We're in a dead-end neighborhood. And from what I've heard, 40 or 50 years ago when it was built, Cowan Mill would have been a through street if the citizens hadn't stood up and said we don't want through traffic through there. Still the same case. I do not want through traffic coming through my neighborhood. I don't want random strangers parking there and wondering if they belong there. It's just, I specifically moved here when I started teaching at Lithia Springs, and I moved into that neighborhood because it was a quiet neighborhood without having to deal with extra traffic. And at this point, you know, I have not seen anything where an Airbnb or whatever they're trying to set up short-term rentals is actually needed. Are we out of hotels in Douglas County? So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium. Seeing no one moving at this point in time, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions?
Chairman Rob Thomas, I just had a question with staff. Any other opposition came forth through your meetings or anything, or any calls or emails?
I did receive one call. It wasn't so much as a complaint of asking what has happened to the case. I did have one objection at the community information meeting last month, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Is there a HOA, active HOA at this
No,
subdivision?
no, it's
It's
not
not?
active HOA.
Okay. Is there any violations in the past, code enforcement?
No,
That you know of?
none have been brought to my knowledge.
Okay. Has the applicant been utilizing this in the past? So is a new application, or did we find out through advertisement?
To the best of my knowledge, it has not been acting as a short-term rental.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all the question I have.
It has been a long-term rental, the
Yes,
property.
yes.
Okay. Any other questions, Planning and Zoning?
It does so since it's been a long-term rental, that means the owner doesn't live there, basically.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have.
Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments about S2023-46?
Chairman,
Commissioner Alcaraz.
so has anyone contacted the applicant to let him know, or is he's aware that this hearing was going on tonight?
Yes, so initially he was set for last month, but due to advertising reasons, he was notified that he would have to go to the next meeting, which is today.
Okay. That's all the questions I've got, Chairman.
Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, just one quick one. So again, a person owns multiple properties, right? Think about the average citizen, that's what they do. I have an owner occupied, but then I also own several other houses throughout Douglas, for the sake of the conversation. So what we're saying is that while this is not an owner occupied situation, somebody owns this property throughout Douglas. Could be one, could be multiple. My question is, if that's the case, they've been renting this all along. There's never been an owner occupied. In other words, it's always been, not that it matters. Some people rent, some people own. Some people have lease, some people have mortgage. Tell me what the real issue is here. And where is staff coming with a recommendation of what? Yes or no?
Staff is recommending approval. The issue being that the applicant is requesting short-term rental, anything less than 30 days. And based on our UDC, that does require a special use permit.
So I heard the opposition concerned about the changing of the character. And again, you can have a rental and somebody is stable and live there and they rent. There's nothing when you turn it into a B2B, and I'm trying to distinguish the difference because people rent all day long. Just when if you begin to monetize this in a different type of more volatile, more transitional, transient, then that probably changes the fabric. All right, you've answered my question. I just wanted to clear that in my own mind. Mr. Chair, I yield, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And the owner's not here? The owner of the property is not here?
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, now yield back to you.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion, please?
I do have a point of order. Since there's no conditions, we can go ahead and vote on this, right? There's no
Yes.
condition that the owner has to agree to, just findings.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so we can go ahead. All right.
We can approve it, deny it, or table it.
And in the past, Mr. Chairman, haven't we normally tabled it when the applicant is not in attendance?
So just to clarify, the Unified Development Code is clear. The applicant should be present, but in the event that they are not present, the board can take any action that they deem appropriate. The agreeing to the conditions is a formality, but it is not a requirement under the code. So even if there were conditions, there would not be a requirement that the applicant would have to agree to them. It is a courtesy that we extend to the applicant, but there is nothing in the code that requires them to agree to the conditions of zoning. Therefore, tonight, the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners may move forward with hearing this application and take any action they deem appropriate, whether that's to approve, deny, or table.
So if we had a question for the applicant and they're not here, it would be best to table so that we could talk to the applicant?
But the Unified Development Code is clear. You are not required to
I
table.
know,
You can
but-
approve, deny, or table. So it is up to the will of the board is how they would like to proceed with this application.
I know in other situations we have tabled when the applicant for another Airbnb specifically, on Beaver Drive, I believe, but we tabled it and that applicant went to the wrong location. So no fault of their own necessarily, but we had questions for the applicant and we tabled. So I was considering that tonight, the table, but it's whatever everyone else decides.
Right. It's up to the board. Yeah. It's up to the board what motion is approved.
And there's no guarantee if we table it, they'll show up next time. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to table, application S 2023-46 until the October 3rd, 2023 meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion to table S 2023-46. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? That is a tie, I believe. So, at this point in time,
Right, you can send your recommendation forward to the Board of Commissioners indicating that it was a tie vote. Typically, a tie does not achieve a majority, so the motion could be deemed as failing. So you would be correct if you wanted to ask for another motion, or you could send it forward to the Board of Commissioners saying that the motion to table did not carry.
okay, Planning and Zoning Board, do we have another motion?
This is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion to approve application S 2023-46, a special request, use permit to allow for short-term rental located at 6168 Pine Lane in Douglasville.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Not hearing a second, the motion will die because of lack of a second. At this point in time, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I will throw the S 2023-46 over the Board of Commissioners with the only recommendation we had was to table, and that was a tie.
Commissioners, you've heard S 2023-46, that the motion was tabled and the vote was a tie. Do I have a motion from anyone here?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table S 2023-46 until the October 3rd meeting, because I would like for the owner to be able to agree to the findings and conditions from planning and zoning.
Okay. We have a motion to table to October the 3rd, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
2023, do I have a second?
Second.
You
Second.
seconded it? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion by Mr. Robinson, the Commissioner.
Yes. Real quick, again, just general point of order. I mean, I'm always a strong believer. You got to be on time and be present. Be on time and be present. We have court cases and stuff where you can't blow off no hearing. Really? My question to staff, did the applicant at least reach out to y'all? I mean, life happens, don't get me wrong. Car accident, family matters, we get that. That's life, we're all human, we get society. But my question, I'm like, why are we accommodating but you knew this. Don't clog up our agenda because like, okay, I get the accommodation, and I'm with y'all. But sometimes like, okay, come on guys, you be about your business. If this is important for you, now I hear the willingness of like, we're willing to look at it, but you're not even showing up. These guys get attorneys and stuff to represent their interests. I don't see the accountability for, well, why should I even consider it? But I get it. I just wanted to make that comment. Sometimes I'm listening to how we try to accommodate, but did you at least put forth some best effort to let us know why you're not here? Like, life happens. But here we are trying to push something down, and again, I'm okay. I'm going to go with the home rule my board, but I just wanted to make that comment. Mr. Chair, I'm done. I yield, sir.
Okay, I have a comment. Unless you've got a good excuse, you got to be here to get my vote, and you can't. All in favor of tabling the motion?
Maybe I have
Go
a comment.
ahead, Commissioner.
Put a comment if the one that was in opposition, if he is the neighbor, do you know any of his whereabouts, or have you seen the individual? Any contact or anything from? Oh, okay, just that's all the question I had. I saw you had it. I thought maybe you might have known something. Okay, well, no. I yield, Chairman.
Okay. All in favor of tabling S 2023 -46, raise your hand. All opposed? Yeah, we have a tie.
So just to clarify, a tied motion does not obtain a majority, so we would be looking for another motion to clarify what is the will of the board, something that we could get a potential majority vote on.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to deny this application.
I second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed?
Thank you.
We have a vote of 3 to 1 to deny the request.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now, Mr. Schaefer, you have our next agenda item, please, S 2023-56.
Next agenda item, Mr. Chairman, NC Roofing Materials of Atlanta. Special use permit request to allow a warehouse to store roofing materials located at 11151 Veterans Memorial Highway in Douglasville, land lot 359, 439, and District 18, Section 2, parcels 2 and 16. Lot size is 4.5 acres. The project comes to us for a couple of reasons. One is the code enforcement officers went out to the property and observed that weeds had gotten up and fencing had been put in front of the property and activity had gone in. This property, if you'll recall, was the subject of a rezoning a couple of years ago for a pawn shop that, for whatever reason, tried to start up and then didn't quite make it. The owners decided that they would prefer to rent someone else, and so we've had the property vacant for a little bit of time here. Roofing company would like to use the building that's there for an office, and then they would like to construct a new building behind the existing one for storage and office space as well. As far as the conditions for the original special use permit for the pawn shop, the conditions that we had asked of them have never been actually implemented. And so failure to implement those conditions in our mind as staff represents a failure to actually get that particular land use vested. And so this evening what we're going to ask of you is that we rescind the old special use permit so there is not a secondary land use approval sitting on this property for a pawn shop on top of our actual recommendation for the current request, which is in favor of allowing the actual storage for the roofing company, which needs outdoor areas for some of the roofing materials and equipment that they use, plus the warehouse and office space that they're going to build. As far as the zoning is concerned on the map, you can see that with the pawn shop, we had rezoned the entire property to commercial from partially light industrial and partially residential. But the two parcels are now completely rezoned into one. This is an aerial image of the property. As you can see, there are residences to the south, but neighboring to the east and west, for the most part, has become commercial. This is a site plan for the property. The applicant is requesting, again, a new building to the rear. They'll be adding a driveway area as well as parking in the rear. And the building is calling for a brick facade facing the street and some hardy plank in order to comply with the commercial facade requirements of the code. As far as the site is concerned, here's some street views of the site. As you can see, it's still kind of a free-for-all getting in and out of this site. There's no actual curb and gutter. And the building itself, thanks to all the years' worth of right-of-way being taken by the Georgia DOT, is roughly 12 to 15 feet from the front of that building, is 12 to 15 feet from the existing right-of-way. So I would have to say that we're going to have some improvements to the front, but of course that'll be up to the Georgia DOT to approve those various requests of our DOT that the frontage be restricted into a driveway scenario so that it's much safer to get in and out of the property. As far as the conditions and criteria for special use, reviewing those, the request currently does meet all the criteria, and staff is recommending approval of it with the following findings: that the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, or B, that the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. I am seeking a couple of conditions in order to approve this. First condition is that having failed to properly establish and vest the approved pawn shop business and failing to implement the required improvements to the site as required under Special Use Permit S 2021-33, conditions of approval, the prior special use approval of the site for a pawn shop is hereby rescinded and no longer valid. Number two, the development of the outdoor storage area specifically and the site generally will be subject to the requirements adopted under UDC Section 305 and the requirements of the Highway Corridor Overlay District. Number three, the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the several development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in specific agency impact statements as reviewed in the staff report dated September 6, 2023. And then we're asking that you direct us to go out on the anniversary and inspect the property in a year to make sure that all of the conditions actually were followed. And with that, I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant, the applicant's agent, who would like to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would, first state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Mo Befaroz. I'm a licensed architect, and I work with Phil. Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate it for your presentation. And the goal is really to isolate, this storage by putting this fence. So everything is going to be in the back. So nobody would notice any, materials, equipment, or tools, or anything like that. This is the existing building, which is supposed to be pawn shop. Now he's using as an office right now. And in the back here, we're going to build that storage area. And this is the other side. We're gonna put the fence all the way around.
All the way around the property?
Yeah. So, I think all the comments were very positive. I read that one. So, the only problem, of course, is in the front, the parking area, and we have to coordinate with DOT. Put curb and gutter and then, the sidewalk. And other than that, I don't see any problem.
Okay. Did you hear the conditions that were read into the record by Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
The conditions, if it's approved, are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you so
If you
much.
would just stand by for a minute, we may have some questions.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one, if you'd have a seat, sir, we'll open the public hearing in opposition. Okay? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. Phil. So in looking back through the write-up for this, there's all kinds of conditions required by DOT, and yet they're not really spelled out in the conditions themselves. Is that incorporated in your recommendation?
No, just that they go to the DRC, at which point commercial review would be,
DOT would pick up
site
on it.
plan review would be
Great,
imposed.
thank you.
Any other questions? Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have.
Commissioners, you have any questions or comments? Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, just a real quick point of order for the clerk for the record. Commissioner Dobbs has an excused vacancy of his seat for this meeting, but we still have a quorum of 3 members out of 5. Just wanted to do that for the record. Mr. Chair, I yield. No questions on the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the old Hilltop, is that building, is that what that is? Okay. All right, we have no further questions, sir.
Thank you very much. Having heard everything, Planning and Zoning Board, do you have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, it's Kurt Nicholson. I make a recommendation to approve S 2023-56 with conditions as read in by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Bain, second.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to, well, no, we've got to vote on this. Okay, we've done the questions. All right, all in favor of approving S 2023-56 as read into the record with conditions, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
S 2023-56 comes to the board with a unanimous recommendation for approval.
Commissioners, you've heard the recommendation. Do you have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve S 2023-56 that includes meeting all the requirements that Mr. Schaefer read? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as recommended, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? We're unanimous also, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, and best of luck to you. Mr. Schaefer, do you have our next agenda item, please?
Excuse so,
Chair-
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman,
the
Mr.
next
Chairman.
agenda item.
Mr. Schaefer.
Point of order.
Mr. Schaefer, just
Sorry.
1 moment. Can I ask everyone to speak into the mics because it's hard to hear from down here. And we're not hearing you too well, and I'm not hearing some of my Planning and Zoning Board members on that end. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Next item is S 2023-57, Paul Richardson. Request for a special use permit to allow outdoor storage and sale of fireworks as an accessory use located at 7297 Lee Road in Lithia Springs. Land lot 571, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 29, lot size 1.48 acres. This request comes to us partly as a result of code enforcement and partly as a request for the outdoor storage itself. The subject property is on the north side of Lee Road near the intersection with Sweetwater. Property was rezoned under case Z 2015-06 from residential low density to general commercial in order to bring the parcel into compliance. And then the site actually was constructed in 1986 on the 1.48 acres. It consists of a 10,000 square foot commercial building with 4 individual units. It also shares the parking with the actual Ace Hardware store. The applicant is proposing to use the property in the rear of this building for outdoor storage of materials for the Ace Hardware store, as well as potentially other businesses on property, and also to specifically store fireworks on the property to be sold during those times of the year when it's allowed. One of the issues that arose when code enforcement visited the property is that the outdoor storage area itself has not been properly permitted. Outdoor storage, of course, requires a special use permit in that zone district before it gets implemented. And there are some requirements about how you do the outdoor storage. So we're not complying with all of those requirements yet, and it's not permitted. The other issue, though, however, is that apparently this is a request to do specifically fireworks storage. And one of the requirements for fireworks storage is that a state fire marshal review be made over the plans for storing fireworks. Staff was not presented with any fire marshal approved plans for how to store fireworks on the property. And since they're a dangerous material to begin with, an explosive material, and there are residences nearby, we felt that the request for fireworks in storage on this property was not appropriate, specifically because it never came to us with an approved fire marshal plan from the get-go. The issue also, though, is code enforcement's findings, and These pictures are of the rear of the property, showing you the containers that have been set up on this property. About 11 shipping containers are in the rear of the building. We don't exactly know what all of them contain, but it looks as though you're trying to store materials for people. Whether they're of businesses at that location or not, we don't know. And what we would prefer not to have happen is that we have a de facto mini storage facility creep onto the property in the form of makeshift containers that are holding other people's third parties' belongings, inventory, whatever. Those are not businesses actively on that property. So one of the issues that we would like to have addressed by the board is when you do outdoor storage, it is an accessory use, and we would like it to be an accessory use to a business that's at that address, not a third party that rents space at that address. If you wish to do a storage facility, then ask for a storage facility, not outdoor storage to hide third-party materials as inventory for off-premise sales somewhere, anywhere in the county or wherever. And that was the big issue for me. Anyway, the code enforcement found them and cited them for weeds, uncut grass, debris, and et cetera, as well as making photographs for us to use this evening to show you the containers that have popped up on the property. Here's a zoning map showing that it is commercially zoned, so the request is a legitimate request for outdoor storage. The existing Ace Hardware would like to store inventory in order to calm down the issues that have arisen with our chain, so that they can store some materials during the year rather than worry about inventory replenishment when our chains are broken and shipping is hard. This is a site plan for the property as well as a survey of the property. And as far as the analysis for the special use permit, all of the criteria for a special use outdoor storage permit are met, except for the fireworks storage itself. And so we would like to recommend approval of this for outdoor storage in general, for businesses located at the property, except for fireworks. We do not want to approve fireworks storage. And the findings are, with the exception of fireworks storage, the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, with the exception of fireworks storage, the proposed use is consistent with the comp plan future land use categorization of this property as within a community village center, incorporating mixed commercial, residential, and industrial uses. C, with the exception of fireworks storage, the use will not negatively impact surrounding properties. And D, with the exception of fireworks storage, the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And the conditions that staff is recommending is, number one, any other use of the property not identified within section 210, uses allowed in each zoning district, specifically table 2.2 and 2.3, uses allowed by right and accessory uses allowed by right of the Douglas County Unified Development Code may require the submission, review, and approval of a new special use permit. Number two, the applicant shall submit to the DRC, Development Review Committee, for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development plans in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated September 6, 2023. And then condition number 3, outdoor storage in a fence-secure area with appropriate screening and landscaping as required under Section 305 is authorized for all materials and inventory for the associated principal businesses on the site, including the Ace Hardware store, except fireworks storage shall not be permitted. Number 4, no storage of equipment, inventory, or materials is authorized for businesses or third parties not currently a principal business at this address. Number 5, the applicant shall schedule an on-site inspection with Douglas County Code Enforcement within the next 30 days to provide verification that the fireworks have been removed and all stored inventory is the property of a principal business. And then our normal request that staff be directed to go out at the anniversary in a year and verify that all conditions have been met. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. At this point, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, that would like to speak in favor of this application You may approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would, please state your name and address for the record and then make your comments, sir.
My name is Paul Richardson. I'm the owner of Big Grin Fireworks, and I reside at 6085 Love Street, Austell, Georgia, 30168. Some of the findings I disagree with and the recommendations. One notably is about the fireworks aspect, and the state regulator Jason Pritchard, who is the acting chief deputy state fire marshal, had provided me instructions and maintained them today via text that for outdoor storage in a container, it's not required by the state to prove that because it's not a facility itself. Actually, the NFPA standard for this clearly states that the outdoor containers used is a preferred method of storing consumer fireworks. The secondly is the type of fireworks described in this negation are not of the type being stored. There are multiple types of fireworks, as you can tell by New York City or Sydney Bay Bridge versus your neighborhood's guy shooting off fireworks. And these fireworks are 1.4G consumer, rated as such by UN codes, and have EX numbers for DOT transportation for the same reason, and because they're lesser threat. 1.3G Pro fall into the same lines, and then you fall in for professional shows that are true exhibitions are 1.3G, 1.2G, and 1.1G, and they get progressively more dangerous as the number gets lower toward 1.1. We don't do fireworks shows from this location. I have, since 2020, operated a fireworks stand in the front of this Ace Hardware. That started because the owner's hands changed from the previous owner that sold them directly inside and stored his fireworks in that very same spot seasonally. As the season comes around, he'd sell fireworks in a store. The Ace Hardware itself is not fire suppressed, so there's a natural, very tight limit of the amount of fireworks that can be displayed in a store without a fire suppression system in it, and hence outdoor storage is preferred. Is that 2 minutes?
Is that 2 minutes? Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to make comments in favor, please state your name and address for the record. You also would have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Edward Merman. I live at 105 Logan Cole Drive in Ackworth, Georgia. I have been operating a fireworks stand for Big Grin Fireworks for approximately 3 years. I am a principal in the company, and I just wanted you to understand that when Douglasville this past weekend inaugurated your amphitheater, it was our company that did the fireworks show for you on Labor Day. It was our company that did one simultaneously for Austell. We are a company that is a veterans organization. I'm a veteran, Mr. Richardson's a veteran. We serve veterans. As part of our mandate, we have to employ veterans and operate at least one stand for our store to benefit veterans organizations, and I'm a member of American Legion Post 160, and I operated a stand that benefited American Legion Post 160 this past year. Having us move this location for really minor infractions, things that could easily be resolved, is an undue burden to our company. We're trying to do good things for this community. We're trying to support veterans, and we're trying to abide by the law the best that we can. These fireworks that we're talking about here are nothing really more than overblown firecrackers. This is not something that's a really big burden to, it's not explosive. In fact, it's not even rated as an explosive by DOT. It's rated as a fire hazard. We have done a lot of good work in the county of Douglasville. We have worked in Cobb County. We've done everything that we can, and this move may very well put us out of business. We can't find storage like this. We need a place where we can get in and out easily, where we can abide by the law and work our business. We had a fireworks stand at this location, as Mr. Richardson said, and I thank you for hearing me. Please keep in mind that this is an organization that supports veterans and will continue to in the future, regardless of your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You also will have 2 minutes per person and an allocated time of 15 minutes. Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions?
Chairman, Rob Thomas. I do have a couple questions. Let me start with Mr. Schaefer. So the new revelation pertaining to the regulations of the fireworks and the storage of them, being hazmat material or fire hazard material, do we need time to research that, to verify, et cetera? Because it's a little conflicting.
Nothing conflicting. This is the law. The main concern is for storage of fireworks without a state fire marshal approved storage plan to safely store fireworks according to State of Georgia Rule 120-3-22-.03. No such plan was submitted to staff. Submit the plan to staff and we could reconsider it.
Okay.
But that was not submitted. I have no idea what the fire marshal is discussing with this applicant, so I can't assess that issue. I only know that under Georgia law, you're required to have a plan reviewed by the state fire marshal, and then we would have to have a plan in place for how they do the storage here locally, so we would see them in DRC as an improvement on the property to comply with the outdoor storage requirements, because there'll be requirements for fencing and landscaping in order to create that situation that's safe and secure.
So really we're talking about three different things, I would say. One is the rules on how to store them. Two, the fact that they need some improvements to adequately, for the code, to adequately abide by the code in order to, cover it up, store it in the back, fence it off. And then three, the fact they're not a tenant there. So they're kind of treating this like a mini storage,
Correct.
in a sense, because they're not tenants at that location.
Correct.
Okay, so the first one sounds like we just got to get the clarification as far as the rules. The second one, regardless if they stay there, or they as in the fireworks, they stay there or not, you're still going to have those improvements to have storage back there. So the improvements have to happen anyway. Fence, setback, and all that.
Organization, cleaning up the trash.
Clean up, okay, that's got to happen no matter what.
Correct.
Just to have storage back there. And the third would be the fact that they need to be tenants there. So if there's a way for them to become a tenant there, then that'll solve that third issue.
So any business that has an office on that location or a retail outlet on that location?
Or they can sublet.
That's their inventory.
All right. So they can be a sublet tenant, they can get a lease, and so that'll solve that part of it. The other, so maybe we need to table this is what I'm thinking, to get clarification on the first, right? Meaning the rules, the laws, what the fire marshal says.
Certainly your proof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one, okay. I just want to make sure we break it down so we know exactly what the issues are here, so we can attack it one at a time. Okay. That's all I have for you. I just have another question for the applicant. Oh, wait a minute. Did someone else? Did you want to?
I guess.
I
I guess
yield.
my concern, that the only thing that you have is the containers there, is that correct? You don't have an office space or,
Is that from Mr. Richardson?
yes, to either one.
When we received notification of violation from the ordinance, the code enforcement, we removed all our storage, not our storage, but our fireworks consumer retail sales stands, which they're designed for that purpose, to other locations for legal storage there, which greatly less cluttered the backyard. I would say that it was an eyesore when I had my stands there, because I have 10 stands in total, and 6 were being stored there, and which you see in the image has 2 of the stands there. Those are no longer there. So only thing that remains is an orderly row of containers and another orderly row of containers, and they're not intended to be moved. They're intended to be locked up and stored. So that's what's there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, the address that you're using, is that of the building where the office space, or or is that Ace Hardware? What,
It's actually because of where the backyard is at. It's of the office strip mall there that has a church and some other businesses. I didn't have time to speak to it, but I was in negotiations to open up, and the cost to water sprinkle the space became unaffordable to me. Then we negotiated into discussions about putting my products in his storefront because he owns that Ace Hardware and four
Right.
other Ace Hardwares, which going to the veterans group, every storefront that we have, whether it's a big one like my store or whether it's Ace Hardware, allows us 2 stands. And this season, we proved our worth to the Northwest Georgia District of the American Legion so this was all part of our growth plan to add 10 more stand capacities regionally throughout Northwest Georgia based upon Ace Hardware placement, since my main storefront on the road fell through because I couldn't afford to build it to code.
do you have this storage situation in any other location, or have you done this in the past?
I have an off-site storage location waiting for me to move my product on a similar setup, but the cost to move fireworks is not cheap or free, so it's. I was hoping not to have to move my product, frankly, but I know that I violated the code. Had I known the code existed about the outdoor storage, all this would have been done in the front end before I had continued to grow my business plan with Ace Hardware, with Joshy there on, hey, I'd like to rent half your building here. If you can get the whole building for me, I'd like to go that way. That's the reason why we were test marketing the spot with the stand in front, and the stand sales were sufficient. And this year was supposed to be the year that we actually operated a storefront, but the store got really damaged by someone trying to open a grocery there that cut in all this plumbing. And by the time that repair would have been happened, I ran into too much time to open in time for 4th of July. 4th of July represents 30% of sales on that day annually. So when you miss it, you miss it. So it wasn't a let's sneak under the law and screw the county. It was this natural progression of our business growth. And one thing that COVID did was drive up the demand in the United States for fireworks. And so we went from a $100,000 a year business to $1 million a year business, but the cost to operate just were vastly higher. And what I'm seeing here is that grow too fast, that happens to people. And so my intent was never to violate the code or anything else. It was to grow a storefront right there on that spot that I had my stand there and benefit.
Yes, sir. I have a question for you, please. How long have your containers been at that location?
2021 is when it started.
So those metal containers have been there since 2020?
Not all of them. They've grown. So I had 1 there, then 2 there, and then 4 there, and then this past year we had the total of 11 there, or 12
So
there. We've
are they
moved them.
all filled with,
They're usably filled, and so there's an aisle down the center of each one with fireworks stacked somewhat on the side, either, like I have a handheld snow cone, which is a non-explosive. I have 72 cases of that, one of them, so it's quite full with that. But they're not full in the aspect of a shipping container from China full, which contains about 1,100 cases of fireworks in a shipping container, so they're nowhere near that full. I would say that there's 3,000 to 4,000 cases of fireworks spread out between the 11 containers. I was trying to get that exact details prior to coming here, but I have that getting worked on right now with a warehouse specialist.
so when you moved your containers there, did you have to reveal to the owner of the property what you were storing?
He was fully aware, yeah.
So he was fully aware of what was
Yeah,
there?
and because again, the attempt to rent the space and because we put a stand there twice a year on the 4th of July season, New Year's Eve season, and so that business showed that we should be there one way or the other.
So basically, the reason you're here tonight is because the yard needed maintaining more?
Yeah, it was quite ugly in the back neighborhoods. Were the complaints from the residents, and they basically said that's ugly as heck. Fix it, and so we were trying to fix it too. So prior to
all of
even
your
beginning.
containers have the fireworks that
All 11 of them
Mr.
do.
Schaefer
Yeah.
was
Yes,
referring
yes,
to.
ma'am.
So if you put the fencing in and the different things that the staff put in your conditions, is that agreeable to you to do all of those?
Yes, ma'am. And I've got a line of credit to do so too. So one way or the other, I'm going to spend a lot of money to fix this problem that I developed for myself.
So is there any other place you could move your containers to if it came to that?
The far side of Atlanta in the country, on the eastern side of Atlanta.
But you do business all over.
I do business primarily on the west of the corridor in downtown. So majority of my business, my stands are in Cedartown, Carrollton, Mableton, Ackworth. Then I have one up in Cumming as well. So they're kind of spread out on this western half of Atlanta Metro than the eastern. This year I opened the first one in Newton County on that side. So do have one there.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have of the applicant or staff.
Board of Commissioners, you have any questions or comments? Commissioner Robertson.
Yeah, I'll be sensitive to this. This is in Commission District 1, so I'm gonna just sort of reach over for this one. All right, I got fireworks. Now, first up, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing. Duly noted. And I did hear that the inaugural of our amphitheater was off the chain. The fireworks, everything. I can't see, so I couldn't appreciate it, but I was told that you guys did a great job. So duly noted. All right. But I appreciate the business at hand. So it's like, okay, how do we make this work? So like my fellow peer down there asked you, will these conditions work for you? Let's keep this simple. Will you agree with the conditions first?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's easy. Second, I want to come back to this, what the state agency does. See, we're local. I like to stay in my lane. But if there's something from the state that requires, now, the question is it admissible? Can I admit text messages? Now, you may have a relationship with somebody up on high. I know how that works. But unless he's going to put that in writing for you, and you can submit it, it would have helped in my mind. Like, okay, I hear you. So I'm listening to my vice chair down there. It's the conflict. Like, okay, but I want to know the truth of the answer. I'm fine.
If I may speak.
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't interrupt. My turn. All right, no, it's okay. We're good. This is easy. I'm clarifying. And so that would have been important because I'm hearing my staff member know he's digging in. No, this is what the law said, and he's not moving. But I hear you. But unless you've got something that's overriding, or something that would be helpful, if there's something. So I'm sort of torn on that. But could you get a plan together? How long would it? So the question is, how long does it take to get the plan to go through the proper process to go up there to the state? Go down to the Coverdale building, wherever, get it, come back. How long does that take? How long would it take?
If I was planning a building, it would be 30 days.
Okay. Is there something pressing here by way of time for you to comply with that component? In other words, he said, well, if you had it, he's messaging to you. Did you hear that part? Would you be willing to go and get that versus saying that I don't need it or that like, okay, you got to come up under the law?
Yes, I can formally submit and have a formal response from the state fire marshals and the Office of Insurance and Regulators.
Okay, all right. Duly noted. I won't go beyond that. I just want those two parts. Yeah, you got to clean it up. You got to be a good neighbor. You got to coexist, as I call it. So you do have to be sensitive. So you've clarified my question. You've answered my questions. Thank you, staff. Mr. Chair, I yield, sir.
Any more comments?
Back to you, sir. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. At this point in time, do I have a recommendation for a motion?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I make a recommendation to table S 2023-57, a request for special use permit to allow for sale of fireworks as an accessory use at location 7297 Lee Road, Letha Springs.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
I have
Oh, too late. Let me restate. I make a recommendation to table S 2023-57, a request for special use permit to allow the sale of fireworks and accessories used at location 7297 Lee Road, Letha Springs, until the October 3rd Planning and Zoning Board meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
Do I have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? All in favor of tabling, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Mr. Chairman, we have a recommendation to table S 2023-57 until the October the 3rd, 2023, 6 p.m. meeting.
Commissioners, we have a recommendation from Planning and Zoning, reference 2023-57, to table this motion until October the 3rd. Do I have a motion? Yes, sir.
I motion that we accept the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board and that we table S 2023-57 until October 3rd, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? We agree, sir.
Thank you very much. Then this item is tabled. Mr. Richardson, that'll give you time to work with the staff and get the permits together and possibly contract for an office or whatever. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Duncan, is the next item yours?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so this application, S 2023-58, this is a special use permit for Sharon and Daryl Fletcher. So the request is for a special use permit to allow for agritourism and an equestrian facility located at 8518 Downs Road in Winston. This is in Commission District Number 4. The applicant is proposing to expand the current facilities on the property to include a new barn, and then also to develop some agritourism enterprises. This will include horseback riding, camping, and special events from the home. So in regard to planning concerns, we're looking at several sections of the code, including Section 348 of Article 3 in regard to special events, and Section 319 of Article 3. This is in regard to the separation of buildings and animal uses. They also are in need of a variance. They were scheduled on the August variance hearing, but that got tabled until the October variance hearing. So the Planning and Zoning Board has not yet taken action on the variance request. Here is the zoning map showing the parcel outlined in red. As you can see, the parcel altogether has about 17 acres, but it is a very long and skinny lot with multiple adjacent residential uses surrounding it. Here's an aerial image, again showing that the majority of the lot is undeveloped. There is a creek that does bisect the rear portion of the property, and there's a utility easement that does run through the rear portion of the property. Otherwise, this is in an area of low-density rural residential and agricultural uses. So here is the view from the road, and then here are several views on the property showing the existing horse barn. Near as we can tell, that barn was built probably in the 90s, most likely built for just the personal use and enjoyment of the family that lived on the property. So that barn was built approximately 15 feet from the side property line. Today we would require a new structure for a commercial equestrian enterprise to be a minimum of 200 feet. So that is the need for the variance that we requested previously. In addition to that, Mr. Fletcher has submitted this concept plan for the camping and glamping uses on the property. So in addition to the existing equestrian uses on the property, which is related to programming such as trail rides, riding lessons, equine assisted therapy, and horsemanship classes, he is proposing down the road to install some small kind of camping or glamping cottages to the rear of the property. Staff did perform the analysis. We did find that overall there are areas of substantial compatibility with the request. We have approved similar requests. However, we do have some specific concerns about a couple of things. We've also had some opposition from adjacent neighbors citing concerns about the uses on the property. So we've organized a series of conditions. Many of them are very similar to ones that you've seen in the past where we have these types of uses coming in. So if you will bear with me, I will just kind of work through these one at a time. So the first condition that we are recommending is that the initial approval for the special use permit is for equestrian-related programming, including the trail rides, riding lessons, equine-assisted therapy, and horsemanship classes. So that was the, my understanding is that was the intent when the applicant purchased the property, was to establish the nonprofit that he has there to do certain special event programming around equestrian-related uses. We are requiring that the applicant must obtain their license from the Georgia Department of Agriculture within 90 days of approval of their special use permit. This request did come to us through code enforcement, and part of the remedy for this was both the Animal Control Department for Douglas County as well as the State Department of Agriculture to make an inspection, and their findings will be followed up on based on the outcome of this special use permit hearing. The applicant must submit payment of their occupational tax within 30 days of the approval of their special use permit, including satisfying all requirements of the Environmental Health Department. All plans for the driveway, parking, and turning areas shall be approved by Douglas County Engineering Department per the standards of the Unified Development Code. The applicant will install a fence along the east property line within 90 days of approval of their special use permit. The fence will meet the height restrictions and material specifications outlined in the Unified Development Code. The hours of operation for the equestrian-related programming, including trail rides, riding lessons, equine-assisted therapy, and horsemanship classes, shall be 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then hours of operation for special events on the property shall be 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So conditions 7 through 10, sorry, I should have advanced my conditions. I apologize. Conditions 7 through 10 that I'm going to read to you now are specific to the short-term rental use of the property. If there is anything that staff has some specific concerns about, it would be the short-term rental use of the property. And so we would ask for these conditions specifically and make it clear that that use is not to be conducted on the property until such a time as it's gone through all of the appropriate review and approval, if in fact it is the will of the board to improve the short-term rental use at all. So condition number 7, the short-term rental use of the property shall be limited no more to 6 units, which shall only be for lease for periods of 30 days or less. At no point shall any space or unit for the camping, glamping, or short-term rental use of the property be used for stays longer than 30 days or any type of long-term dwelling. So here we're trying to make sure that this is a temporary camping use only and that it doesn't turn into some sort of like long-term housing use on the property. A 50-foot setback from all side property lines is required for any of the camping, glamping, or short-term rental uses. Camping, glamping, or short-term rental uses shall also be located on the property south of the existing creek. Before commencement of any camping, glamping, or short-term rental use on the property, the applicant shall submit their site plan to the Development Review Committee for review and approval of any new structures, infrastructure, clearing, or grading to take place in this use. And then number 10, there we go. Number 10, before commencement of any camping, glamping, or short-term rental use of the property, the applicant shall install a fence around the entire periphery of the property. The fence will meet the height restrictions and material specifications outlined in the Unified Development Code. So, and then the last 2 conditions that I'm sharing with you here tonight are just in general. All uses allowed under the special use permit shall be completely contained onto the subject property. At no time shall animals or visitors leave the property and come onto adjacent properties. Any complaints will be investigated and possibly grounds for a show cause hearing to reconsider the special use permit. And number 12, at such time as the applicant cease to own or occupy the property, the special use permit shall expire. And we also have our typical directive to staff to go and make investigation at the 1-year mark and determine if the property is in compliance with these conditions. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, that would like to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you'd state your name and address for the record first, sir.
Good evening. My name is Daryl Fletcher. I live at 8518 Downs Road in Winston, Georgia. Frederick Douglass said it best that it is far easier to train a child than it is to repair a broken man. And that's been the mission of Sofa Ranch since in our existence, that we want to provide an atmosphere of healing, growing, and learning through equine-assisted activities. And so with equine-assisted activities and the expansion of agro-tourism, we want to provide that atmosphere for both young adults or youth and also adults. And with that, through the healing power of horses and equine-assisted learning, that is our goal. Our goal is not to disrupt the community that we are in. Our goal is to actually impact the community that we are in. In the state of Georgia, it costs taxpayers roughly $19,000 to imprison individuals. And so what we want to do from the standpoint of reaching our young people is to get ahead of that rather than having our taxpayers pay $19,000 to imprison someone. We want to have the opportunity to impact their lives with youth and summer camps and equine-assisted learning programs at a fraction of the cost to be able, once again, to impact the community. That is our goal, and that is what we set out and ever to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please approach the podium. You also would have 2 minutes. If you'd state your name and address for the record.
Roderick Watts. I'm live in Decatur, Georgia, 114 Bruton Street. I've been a clinical psychologist for about 30 years and also a professor at Georgia State. And I love horses. And so I've been working with them for over a year now and enjoying riding for pleasure. But I also was very impressed by the work they've been working at the sofa, and I can I think say that he's very able and has the expertise to do the words that he's talked about today. And I know that because I was author on a scholarly article about young people and equine therapy. So there's good science for this, and I hope you really think about the technical parts. I can't obviously speak to that, but I can speak to the value of this. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? If you would, state your name and address for the record, and then you'd have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is Tila Evans. I'm at 465 Memorial out in Atlanta, and I'm a volunteer at Sofa Ranch. So I'm not sure what y'all think about when you think of horses, but they are some of the most majestic, empathetic, patient, frustrating teachers that you can ever interact with. And from the moment that I came to Atlanta, I've visited a lot of barns out here. People train in different ways, they connect with kids in different ways, they do different programs. And the moment that I met these two folks right here, and frankly, any volunteer that comes to that barn, I've always just been wowed by the kinds of people that they are and what they want to do. And we've done, in just the time that I've been there, some amazing programs. We use horses as a way to help kids be able to talk about their feelings in ways that they can't in other places. And so when we do a program and I see a kid that won't even touch a horse on the first day, and I come back 3 days later and they're trotting, they're ready to go on the trails, they're tacking up their horse, that kind of stuff, that builds the character, right? That builds their ability to be able to talk about how they feel, what's right for them, and those things are gonna stay with them. So I can't speak on all the details for the zoning and the permits, but I do know that I can speak on their character and the things that I've seen. And I think that this is a really beautiful and amazing thing for this county. And I just also just want you to know how special it is, because it's not a lot of places. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? That was our time running. We should be okay. If you'd state your name and address for the record, then you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Vivian Dagree. I reside at 9135 Dover Street, Lithia Springs, Georgia. I moved here late last year, and this past May was my 24th birthday, and during that time I was actually going through a really difficult time, and I found Sofa Land Ranch, and I had been exploring different ways that I could get better in touch with like myself and my life, and I found the ranch, and it was one of 2 black-owned ranches that I found in the area. The other one was in Fayetteville, so Sofa is not only closer in proximity to me, but I definitely align to their values and their core mission with their promotion of spiritual and emotional well-being. And so I think Mr. Darrell, we had a ride, and so I actually had like a little incident with one of the horses, but he was very patient and attentive, and I've definitely found the ranch to be a safe place of healing for me. And not only myself, but even one of my friends from the University of Washington moved out to Georgia, and I didn't even know this before I had moved, but she's also attended the ranch, and she said great things about it as well. And so I think that it's great for the community, and I think that we need spaces like this. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Could you state your name and address, and then you have 2 minutes.
Yes, my name is Janissa Miller. I am at 2550 Blackman Drive in Decatur, Georgia. I'm a health scientist. I study the social determinants of health, especially components as it concerns to growth in our communities. So while you're making your decision, I would like for you guys to consider how important programs like this, like these, or like the one that Daryl and his wife run, are important for folks in the community, especially with mental health. During COVID, our mental health statuses with everyone, it took a toll. These programs have been put in place to help combat those issues. Daryl also services veterans who have spent time in the services to come out and volunteer as well, and it has done them a world of good. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one else moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You also would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record first.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Pamela Clanton. I live at 8478 Downs Road, Winston, Georgia. I share a huge property line with the Fletchers, the east side of the property, if I'm correct on the geography. And I do want to say it gives me no joy to have to stand up here and oppose this proposition. I am a horse owner. I have participated in programs that provide outreach to at-risk children and adults via horses, and I support their mission wholeheartedly. I support them in the community. If your horses get out, I will come help you catch them. In fact, my daughter has already done that. But I have to oppose the current proposal with the way that I understand it for some reasons. Again, the equine therapy lessons, etc., I support. The glamping, camping, as I understand where this will be developed on the property is actually, if I understand their diagram correctly, I can stand in my bedroom, in my bathroom, and see this. Our properties are very narrow. My property is built on the very back of my property, which affords me privacy. I'm assuming there would be security lighting, exterior lighting for these structures. If I can see it in daylight through a thicket of trees, I'm concerned that this will be a problem. I'm concerned about noise. I work taking care of patients in a hospital 7 days a week. I have to be there at 6 a.m. Sleep is very important to me. So if there's out-of-town people renting and having activities, you know, in the evening and at night, that's a big concern to me. Is that 2 minutes? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium. You'd state your name and address first, sir, and then you got 2 minutes.
My name is Charles Holloway, and my address is 8425 Downs Road, which is across the street from the subject property. I've been a resident of Douglas County for 79 years. I've been a resident of Downs Road for 39 years. I've enjoyed the benefits of Douglas County for all these years. I appreciate the quality of life that we've been able to sustain there. This property is in the Dog River Basin, and rules and regulations have been put in place in the past to make sure that that water stays clean. We do not grow without a sufficient amount of water. We've been able to grow because of we have good water. We have water that is cleanable. If we, and those regulations are put in place and the zoning is in place to make sure that there is not too much development. As a matter of fact, development in the Dog River Basin has been curtailed and has been not encouraged, let's put it that way. The entire county obviously has benefited from the water that we have there. Any change that would challenge the integrity of that water supply could be a detriment to the growth and quality of life in that Dog River Basin. And any change to present zoning or land use regulations would create a slippery slope that would be a detriment to this great water supply that we have and everything. The website indicates that there will be approximately 8,000 people coming and going on this property. And if you live at 8425 Downs Road, Downs Road is a old county road that was tarred and paved eventually. It was a dirt road, and they just left it that way and just paved it. So it's very crooked. It has multiple sight line things, and so I would ask you to reject this.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you state your name and address to the record, then you have 2 minutes.
I'm Kimberly Cannon. I live at 8476 Downs Road, directly east adjacent to the property. I have no problems with an equine facility. I had horses myself. Horse helped me through the hardest times of my life. I do have a problem with glamping. I do have a problem with the amount of people that their website does talk about coming into our residence. My saying has been, I didn't move to the airport and ask it to be moved. They're moving into our residential area asking us to accept the airport. We have no problems again with horses. They have been loose. We know there's fence problems. The Smiths that were next door, they're the ones that built the original barn. It's been many years. The fences are having to be repaired as they're falling, I'm sure. Horses have been on my property. My concern with that is I have a visually impaired son. He is an adult that lives there full time. I have a grandson that's 3 years old that lives there. We have swing sets and things. Those horses come through the woods. My son doesn't see them. He's run over, and they're kind of wild when they're loose. They have been working with me diligently. I've made no complaints to code enforcement or anything to make sure the horses are up. I have a phone number now to contact them. But to have strangers coming in, glamping 30 days, it's only 14 days in the state of Georgia to camp. So if I go down to Altoona, I can only stay there 14 days, and we're asking for 30 days, which could be treatment facilities and things. And we want safe people in our neighborhood. I have a grandchild that comes there every day. I pick him up from school. I don't let my kids go outside without me anymore because there's a lot going on. So I want to feel safe in my neighborhood, and I want my kids to feel safe. Ultimately, I want all of us to be safe in our area, and it is a quiet road, and it's going to bring a lot in, and I just need that to be considered.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else? You state your name and address to the record, and then you have 2 minutes, sir.
Daniel Pitts, 8525 Aaron Way. I really would like to welcome a neighbor into our residential zoned area. Instead, I got to face a commercial, what should be a commercially run business. A budget of $8.25 million, thousands of people coming into a residential area. It's going to affect my property value. These people have rode horses across my property. This is going to bring a big liability and chances of me getting sued. I'm totally opposing this, and I hope you will do the same for us.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time. My name is Jennifer Karate. I live at 6222 Post Road. I'm sitting on 35 acres. I've been there for 20 years now, and I'm farming sheep, goats, honeybees, chickens for eggs, sir. And I do have organic blackberries, because no, I'm not going to spend my time going out there squirting them. They grow just fine. Now, I grew up around here because my grandparents lived at 6007 Post Road. Okay. Now, my property backs up to Mr. Fletcher's. He and I have met on my fence line when I've been making repairs because somebody had torn down the gate, and then I don't know who it was, and I wasn't there to see, but I do know that the erosion that has occurred on what I have to repair on the 19 acres where the power lines are. I am a one-woman operation, gentlemen. I do not have horses. I have 2 legs, and I have 2 arms to carry. But the environmental stewardship of whoever came onto my land with shod horses has left a ravine this high that is up to me to fix. And I will do it because it's my duty. As a Douglas County citizen, I have not been allowed to develop my farm as I wish because I am in the Dog River Basin. So I'm not allowed to dig a hole. I'm not allowed to put an extra house. Where Mr. Fletcher would like to put his camping grounds is not even a quarter of a mile from my barn where I'm storing hay for my livestock. I don't have that many because I am a one-woman operation. However, were a fire to spark back there, Tim Jordan works for the fire department. He also repairs my tractor. He came onto my land. I have less than 5 acres from Post Road to where my house is, and he said, ma'am, you will burn before the fire truck can get there. So a 17-acre gravel road for a fire truck to come down and put out a fire is not reasonable, gentlemen and ladies. I'm opposed, and I apologize because I love horses. My brother rode at Chastain Stables for 20 years on special. So I understand it, but we may not be having that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? How's our time running? 5 minutes. Okay, you got 2 minutes if you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Finney Hull, and what do you want, my address?
Yes.
622 Post Road. I'm opposing this simply because there's a lot of reasons, but one is we are on the Dog River water basin. And everybody here in Douglasville drinks that water, and, you know, we want to keep it clean. Anyway, so there are a lot of restrictions and stuff, but I love horses, and I like what he's doing, but this is our residential area. It's not for businesses, I didn't think. But, you know, when I walk out the door, they're going to be right there. So it's just not, there's just so much wrong with it. There's just, and I'm sorry. And I like what you're doing, but it's just not for my backyard or anybody else's. You know what I'm saying? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Stumbling with this thing.
If you'd state your name and address for the record, then you've got 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm Joe Crimes. I live at 5084 Fay Court in Norcross, Georgia. And I own some of the land that adjoins the farm or the horse ranch that's being built there. I have a special needs son who we thought would never walk. He did equine therapy, and I cannot praise that enough. He is walking today. He was supposed to be in a wheelchair by now. He's walking with a cane. The equine therapy part, I think, is wonderful. However, I think the ambitious plan put forth for the use of the property is not compatible with the whole area. the Dog River Basin. I don't know how many horses, barns. Have you ever smelled the inside of a horse barn? The camping, the people. This is supposed to be residential, agricultural, not business. And while I do applaud them for their goals, for their ambitions, I think it would better serve their purpose for it to be done elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? How much time do we have? 2 minutes. Okay, we got time for one more.
I'm Rhonda Pitts, and I live at 8525 Aaron Way, and our property is backing up to the Fletchers. And we are a little worked up about this because it's one of those things that kind of just happened, and we just see horses going across our property, and then once we look into it, we see there's this whole website of things going on behind us, and then this whole plan of something happening that we didn't know about, other than just horses coming across our property, people we didn't know. So it's more like things were just going on, and then more like doing what you want and then asking for forgiveness rather than getting everything in place and doing it the right way. Right, like buying commercial property and then running the commercial business on that property, and then just buying our personal property up around us and using it for the commercial reasons. So we're all in this, and then we're going to have this business running right in the middle of us. And we all have families we're trying to raise, so we all have a lot of concerns with that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? How much time we have? 4 seconds. 40 seconds. Seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Mr. Fletcher, I forgot to ask you when you were up, you heard the conditions that were read in. Are you in agreement with those conditions? And which one would that be?
Point of order, please go up to the mic.
I'm in agreement on all but one, which was, I believe, number 11, where it said that we would have to maintain or stay on the property with the horses. One of our neighbors have granted us access to ride our horses on that particular property. In addition to that, we do sometimes ride to Dog River. But that is for personal usage, not any business usage from the standpoint of recreational riding. So that's the only thing. However, from this standpoint, like I said, I'm not trying to cause any, disruption to the community or anything like that. It's just I'm trying to make an impact to the community. So that's it.
Understand. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Planning and, let's see. We've had questions. No, okay, questions. Planning and zoning board, do you have any questions of Mr. Fletcher or of staff?
Yeah,
We'll get this going here.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I know that the most of the residents around you have some issues with the horses getting out, and I understand that. I live in Douglasville, and I see horses that shouldn't be in the area that should have horses because I'm backed up against someone who has horses, and they get out occasionally and they wander through the yard, and we just call animal control and they come and rile them up and push them back. But the one thing, how many horses do you have currently, or how many horses are you planning to have?
Well, currently we have 16 horses, and we are not looking to acquire any more horses.
Okay, so you have 16 horses already?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I know that I hear some people talking about the amount of people that's going to be there at a given time frame. So how many people will be attending that if you were at full capacity of what you planning on doing?
If we were at full capacity, so basically how we are structured, no more than 8 people would be in participation of an equine session. So basically, when persons go out or are experiencing any type of equine experiences, the capacity that we put in place is 8 people. We have had, this past May, we had a mental health awareness day, bringing awareness to the healing power of horses. And so the capacity that we had at that particular time was about 25 people. So with that, that would be basically what that would do. We've also hosted Boy Scouts, the Boy Scout Club, and like I said, it's like 25 people. And within regards to the participation, everything basically stays within on the property.
Okay. Now, will there be people staying overnight at some of your sessions when you say you might have the capacity of 8 people at a
With
time?
anything that is involved, the staying overnight is a future plan. The glamping and camping, we anticipate that, or we were anticipating that to be down the line 2 and 3 years. Our sole goal right now is the horses. So that particular plan, we haven't implemented anything to that nature, but when we spoke with Allison, she just said, hey, if you have any future goals or plans, just submit everything at this time so that you won't have to come back and try to do something else. So the glamping and camping portion of our program is non-existent at this point. And it's, to be quite honest with you, we don't even have the funds to do it right now. So at the end of the day, our focus has been horses.
Okay. Based on that, now we have the situation where that they said that, the fencing and, you right by the water basin, and I know there are concerns about that because you already have horses there already.
Correct.
And so that, just trying to figure out how are you going to kind of keep these horses corralled, because that has been an ongoing problem. The horses getting out, and then we have other people in the neighborhood who has, kids as well as someone who has special needs. So how are we looking at, keeping those horses? I know sometimes it's hard because they are horses and they do get out, but how are we going to try to?
So we have, with Kim, I submitted a plan to Kim and Allison, I believe 2 weeks ago, in regards to containing the horses. When the issue arose from the county, we were in the process of doing a lot of construction. So when the issue arose from the county, we halted construction in order to make sure that we met with all guidelines. So a part of that plan is the full containment of our property with those with gates and fences in order to contain those horses.
Okay. So last question for me. Now I know we talked about, we're talking about kids, but what about adults? I know you had talked about about having adults come to the facility, and I know that certain things is about parking. That's going to be a concern when you had a certain situation. I know when you had the Boy Scouts, they most likely came in a bus or parents dropped them off.
They came in individual cars, and with the way we laid out everything was everyone was strategically parked. No one's in the road. Our house sits way in the back.
Okay.
Maybe a quarter of our property. So we have allocated parking in order to accommodate that, in addition to parking alongside our driveway that we have a plan in order to install more parking.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to some of the board members. I know they got questions just like I did.
Mr. Fletcher.
Hey, sir.
One of the concerns that I have is that you have quite a few neighbors that are here tonight. Have you had an opportunity to talk to them prior to coming here?
Yes, I've spoken to, I believe it's Dan. Yes, I've spoken to Dan, Kim, and also Jennifer. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, we spoke in regards to the horse portion of our program. I was speaking with Dan, I believe last week, and he addressed or brought up some concerns about the glamping and it being right back up to his property. And I was letting him know that the way the diagram is, it's just a quarter of it and not the actual property line, so it wouldn't be rising or right up back to his property. I don't know your name, madam, but which the information that she shared today, I was unaware of that. And so when I submitted all the information to the county and spoke with Allison, she did inform me to speak with some of my neighbors, and that's when I had an opportunity. Even now, I'm not trying to sound, arrogant or anything. When we first moved in the property, which in January, we had, like I said, we had ambitious goals. My realtor was trying to reach out to Jennifer to no avail, because we wanted to buy more property around us in order to help alleviate some of these problems or issues of or not necessarily buy the entire property, but maybe a portion of their property, to just say, hey, this is what we're trying to do in the community, and have an impact in the community. However, we were unsuccessful in getting in contact with those particular neighbors, because like I said, we wanted to be able to, we know the impact that we want to have on the community. So we know within our 17 acres, it would not be able to be feasible. So that's what we were going. However, like I said, that particular reaching out to them did not give us the opportunity to actually get in contact with them.
I have a question.
Yes,
for you,
ma'am.
Mr. Fletcher.
Yes.
When you have your patients or clients there, children or adults, are there trails within your property that they walk on, or is it just in a corral?
Both. We have, when it comes to equine assisted therapy, equine assisted therapy is 70%, the way we do it is 70% off the horse, or groundwork, which is the term used, groundwork, and 30% actually maybe using on the horse. When we do trails for therapeutic purposes, we use that as an opportunity for when a person experiences a plateau. So maybe they were experiencing some level of anxiety. Maybe they were experiencing some level of challenges within communication. We use that portion for the recreational or therapeutic riding as a reward for them, saying, hey, you've reached this plateau, let's get an opportunity to get on the horse. Like we mentioned about the creek, we use the creek as an opportunity for our clients to experience a moment of silence, a moment of reflection, a moment of quietness, so that they can symbolically throw their cares into the creek and allow those particular issues to wash away as the creek flows. So majority of the work that we do when it comes to the equine assisted therapy, it is inside the arena.
And do they also help care for the animals?
Do they help care for the animals?
Do they
yes, they do. That is a portion or a process. So when it comes to equine assisted therapy, there are several different modalities. There is what you call the triangle modality, of where you have the equine specialist, as myself, you have a mental health professional, and then you have the actual client. The diamond modality is where there is an equine specialist, the mental health professional, the horse, and then also the client. And so within that, that gives a person the opportunity and the space in order to work in those particular, it may be grooming. It may be just simply walking the horse around the arena and giving them the opportunity and space to walk. And we use the horses as a journal, where if you don't want to talk to me or you don't want to talk to the therapist, you can just simply talk to the horse and walk around in the arena, and once again getting an opportunity to express yourself without any judgment, without any repercussions. So it could be brushing, it could be walking the horse around, it could be a mirror of things where that person has an opportunity to be impacted with their mental health for the horses.
And are your horses specially trained, or?
Yes, all 16 horses are not specially trained. We have 5 horses that we use specifically for therapy. All our horses have a motivational or inspirational name: grace, peace, truth, purpose, greatness, all these different things. So when a person comes to the ranch and I say, you're going to be working with peace today, it's a subconscious message referring to that person, oh, I needed peace in my life, or I need grace in my life. So those 5 horses that we use, they are a part of that. They are specially trained for that particular purpose.
And how long have you been operating, not on this property, but in your life? How long have you been?
I've been riding horses since I was 7 years old.
How long have you had this type business?
This since 2019.
And you were where prior to purchasing?
Well, we were leasing 12 acres of land in South Fulton, and we wanted to once again have an opportunity to have a bigger impact on the community. And so we've been a couple of different other places. However, we settled in Douglasville because it's on the border of South Fulton and also Noonan. And so once again, we are part of the PI program in Douglasville, Partners in Education. We also have a campaign where Horses Healing the Hood, where we take the actual horses to the schools to once again, so to give the children an opportunity to experience the healing power of horses. So it's not just an instance of, hey, everybody come to the ranch. It's an instance of, once again, we want to make an impact into the community.
Well, I know that horses are beautiful and majestic and probably help heal people, but they're also scary to people that aren't familiar with them. And if they get out of your property, then they could potentially maybe hurt someone if they, if they bit them or whatever. So you have a method in place that will contain the animals to your 17 acres only.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
So you won't walk them up and down the road.
Pardon me?
You will not have your animals up and down Downs Road walking
Not-
when you have your clients there.
No, not at all.
We looked down our windows the other day, and there were 3 horses walking right through our front yard, and they're beautiful, but they're very big, and they can, tear up our grass and things like that. But
Yes.
you're going to contain them on your property when you are operating your business.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Do you train for competition?
No, I do not.
Mr. Fletcher, I have a question down this.
Yes, sir.
One of the people opposed mentioned your budget for your program is like $8.5 million.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a lot
not.
of
I'm not
business.
sure where they got those numbers from. So.
Yeah.
Order. Thank you.
On order.
Go ahead.
Can I answer?
Yes. Go ahead.
So to that 2.85 million ticket, that mainly has to do with increasing facilities, providing an facility usage, and so once again, that 2.85 million is not attached. Let me say it this way. We have an ambitious goal of opening 10 ranches across the country. So with that, part of that 2.5 million is not allocated just to Downs Road. So that is a part of our ambitious mission. Horses, and the reason why we decided to do 10 cities across the country, this has nothing to do with Douglas County. However, people of color have not had the opportunity to receive the healing benefits of horses. And so with that, we want to strategically go into communities that have disposable income. And so put it like this, when someone pays the full tuition to come to our summer camp, it creates a scholarship for some other child. So basically what that does is when we are in those communities, now we have an opportunity to bridge the underserved and also those who have the disposable income. So that's how we set up. So I understand what you're saying, Dan, but that information is incomplete.
Great. My next question would be for Ms. Duncan. Thank you. So the applicant has stated that he has 16 horses on his property. I know we have limitations as to how many livestock you can have in some respects. Is there a limitation on how many horses one individual can have at their private residence?
So if the animals are basically kept for the personal use and enjoyment of the family living on the property, the limit is 1 per acre. So currently, right now, Mr. Fletcher is compliant with our code regulations in regard to the number of horses.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Rob Thomas, I have a question also for you, Ms. Ellis. Could you pull back up the conditions, please? When we stopped at, let's see, so totally, how many conditions do we have?
So we have 12.
12 total.
Mhm.
Okay. Should this application be broken up possibly into 2 applications? Mr. Fletcher indicated that the second part, which is like 8 through 12, the conditions pertain to the camping. It has nothing to do with this equestrian type business that he has. But he's, in fact, even indicated it'd be some years down the road to even get to that point, to even have those other money making or camping conditions going on. So he's not even doing that yet. No plans to do no time soon. So why not we just start with, make a motion on the equestrian part, which is already up and going. The neighbors seem to be okay with it to a certain extent. It's like the most opposition was with the camping part of this whole equation. Well, when we take that out of the equation, and just, I know you recommended it, that way get it all done. I get it, get it all over, and when he is ready, is already approved and move forward. Well, he's not ready for a couple of years, just indicated. So, and that seemed to be the main sticking point.
Sure thing. So to address your concerns, Mr. Fletcher is correct. The staff does advise all applicants to bring forward everything that you are contemplating so that the board and the community can consider it and provide their feedback. That is the process that we're going through this evening. If you are inclined to only approve the current equestrian uses, condition number 1 that I have up there on the screen does very clearly say the initial approval for the special use permit is for equestrian related programming, including the trail rides, riding lessons, equine equestrian therapy, and horsemanship classes. So if you are inclined to only approve that piece, I would recommend that you clearly indicate that and say we will exclude conditions 7 through 10 of the application. I do believe that condition number 11 is important given the concerns that we have heard from the neighbors. Again, as a reminder, this is an application that came to us through code enforcement and animal control because of properties getting loose, or excuse me, horses getting loose and getting onto other properties. Throughout the time that this has been pending, we have received additional concerns from neighbors that the horses continue to get loose and continue to get on the property. And I appreciate what Mr. Fletcher has shared. He did, when we first had the code enforcement department make a site visit, he is correct. He has been very agreeable to work with us, and he did cease all activities that he had, going on the property until we could go through this process. So we appreciate that. But nonetheless, to answer your question, if you are inclined to only approve the equestrian uses, we would recommend that you approve with conditions 1 through 6, exclude 7 through 10, and keep 11 and 12.
Okay, I'm sorry. Keep 1 through 6, exclude 7 through 10, and then 11 and 12. Keep 11 and 12.
That is my recommendation, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's what I have.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Planning and Zoning Board. Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have of Mr. Fletcher or staff.
Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, Chairman.
Commissioner Alcaraz.
This is for the applicant, Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir.
You stated you were fine with everything except for number 11, which we've done discussed. So would you be willing to go forward with your equestrian center opposed to not having the facilities for the agritourism? the glamping and camping.
Could you restate that?
Are you fine with the equestrian facility alone without the glamping and camping?
Yes, sir.
Listening to all this and listening to everyone makes it tough because I'm very much about the youth. Very much. I'm very much for helping those who have issues with mental stability and so forth. I serve on the CSB board. I grew up riding horses. I grew up my whole my best friend would come to my house, we'd ride motorcycles, go to his house, down off Ephesus Church Road and Post Road, down to Dog River, we would ride horses. So I love your idea, but I have to think also about your surrounding neighbors. The only thing that concerns me is the land, the layout of the land. Just a part of me feels like it's narrow and long. It doesn't really lend itself to your business plan. But we're here where we are, and I'm going to say I appreciate what you do, and I just wanted to make sure that you would be okay if going forward, if the board and the Board of Commissioners decided, would you be okay with going forward with the stipulation of no future glamping and camping? You're good?
Yes.
Okay, I yield back, Chairman.
Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. All right. Now, I do get it. It sounds like we're settling in somewhere in the middle. You know, I get everything. Visually impaired, got it. I didn't get to ride horse. I used to have to clean out those stalls when I was younger on the farm. So I got hazed. Forget fraternal hazing. That was brutal. But you learn about work ethic. That's in us all. That's work ethic. So I get it. I mean, this is the rural part of our county. This is that western part. So this was good for me. Like, now how this is gonna play out? How this gonna go? Is this right? But I hear it. But yet the commercialization of that. So let me get to what my question was. Allison, need your help. All right. So I got it. I didn't know what a camping and glamping was. That's beyond me, but that's okay. I followed it. Question for you. So this is zoned as what type of property? Agricultural straight or residential? Tell me again.
It's residential agricultural, sir.
All right. So property rights. Property rights. So can farms be on? Can this talk to me? I'm trying to figure out does it really fit?
Sure. The residential
From
agricultural.
the business side, I get horses. How about the business side? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. The residential agricultural zoning district basically assumes that you're going to have both uses in proximity. So the question that Mr. Nicholson brought up earlier about the number of horses, if you are keeping animals for the personal use and enjoyment of the family that lives on the property, we have certain restrictions around that. If you want to exceed that, for example, getting into the agribusiness, portion of the agricultural zoning, that's going to require a special use permit. So this board has heard special use permits before for a variety of uses, for people wanting to keep alpacas, for people wanting to exceed the number of chickens that we would normally allow, and things of that nature. So again, all of that requires a special use permit because it anticipates that both the residential and the agricultural uses will be in proximity to each other. It assumes that you are going to have some smaller parcels and some larger parcels. And so the special use permit allows us to take consideration of a request parcel by parcel and make sure that the use that's being approved is appropriate for the context.
No, I appreciate that. Got it. So really my comments, again, I get Georgia State, the guy that spoke earlier, double alumni and Teton entrepreneurship, and I get it. And to the applicant, you almost sold it and bought it back in the same moment. You have to listen. You're blending in. It is about your environment. You got to be sensitive now. You just can't drop. You scared the neighbors. You dropped this business model. Yeah, you got it on point, but you scared them. You just bang. Just like, okay now. Ease up. It's the language. I love your heart, love your aspiration. 8th annual mental health. I'm that guy. But it's you gotta balance it. You have to hear them. You gotta hear, like, look, we're just residential now. Have dominion. I hear the spiritual part. We'll get them animals under control. Like, give them assurance. That's what I'm looking for. Not what you're about. Tell me how you're going to make this work in that neighborhood. This is about a transact. This is about zoning. Right? Are you going to make it work? Can you make it work, sir? That's a straight question. Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can make it work
Yeah.
if the neighbors are willing to. I hear all your concerns. I don't think that your concerns are unreasonable.
Address me. Turn around. Come on. Address me.
Oh, well, I hear all the concerns, and I don't think their concerns are unreasonable. I believe most of their concerns are either by putting something in place by our establishment, but first having a conversation. And so many of the concerns, or I won't say many, but some of the concerns, I was unaware of the concerns until today. So if the neighbors are willing to have a conversation so that we can put those guidelines to address their concerns in place, then I think that will create a win-win type situation.
That's good enough. I won't belabor the point. It's like, it's one of those, they see you, but did you see them? I need you to listen to what I just said. They saw you, but did you see them? Right? It's a community. The very thing you're talking about, like, okay, I'm going to hold you to what you just said. If it's a community, it's about, I'm going to leave it at that. But and I'm sure people around you hear what I'm trying to get to you. Just know that you got neighbors, and that you hear them. I'm going to leave it at that. I think you got my object lesson here. I yield, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fletcher,
Yes, sir.
some of this is free to people that can't afford it, and some of it is to people that are affluent enough to pay a full ride, excuse the pun, I guess, but
Yes, sir. We do create scholarships for persons who don't have the opportunity to pay the full tuition.
okay. I'm sure the neighbors are wondering, are these kids that you're looking to help, or is it psychological problems or home problems or kid problems, or are they kids that have been in trouble before, or are these? I think that's my biggest concern.
Okay. So, at present, we have not had any children that have been in any trouble. Our goal is to reach the children before they get in trouble. So that has been our model. So we have not entertained or hosted any children that have been in any type of trouble from the standpoint of the law.
Right.
We work with schools, we work with counselors, we work with parents that may see their children going down a particular path, and then we want to be able to intervene before they get to that particular level.
Okay. And how often would they come to your farm and have the contact with the horses? Is that a weekly thing, or bi-weekly, or monthly, or how does that work?
Currently, what we're doing is based on an as-needed basis. So with it being on an as-needed basis, I cannot speak to where it's going to be, hey, these kids are going to be here this week, these kids are going to be that week. It's on an as-needed basis.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You can have a seat.
Sure.
I don't know. Huh?
Go ahead, you finish.
I'm not. No.
You're
You
done.
got to ask him a question.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
I'm just listening to, as those who come and spoke, you've got other facilities. Am I correct? You had one, you said, is there one over in the cab? Or no?
No, sir. We have one facility right now and we are looking to expand facilities in different cities across the country. But we don't have any other, this is our only facility currently.
And someone will be living on this property all the time, correct?
Me, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, I yield, Chairman.
If I can speak to address you
You
as
can.
Mr. Phil, I have 2 grandchildren and I have 5 children, and so with that regard, I want to protect my family as well. So, background checks, character references are all a part of our process when we work with the community and we work with people that work around our organization as well. So, to speak to Councilman Alvarez, we're living on the property. That's our home. So we want to protect our home as well. So we have a special interest in order to protect our home and the entity of our home. We are concerned about our property value. We're concerned about a lot of the things that the neighbors are concerned about as well. So, like I said, it's a conversation and an opportunity to create a win-win situation.
Thank you, sir. I don't know if this is an appropriate question or not, but of all the people that have spoke against this, if he were to do away with the camping and camping, and he kept it at the size that he's talking about keeping it, how many of you would still be against this? We got to make a decision now, and we've listened to you, both sides, and we care about what both of you have said. I think it's important for us to make some sort of decision tonight, and I relinquish it back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We cannot go back. That we can't do that.
Public hearing is closed.
Yes. So we need to go. We need to move forward.
Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion and the comments. Do I have a motion, please?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion to approve S 2023-58 with conditions 1 through 6 and 11 and 12, excluding conditions 7 through 10 for property, for special use permit for agricultural and equestrian facility located at 8518 Downs Road, Winston.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Now, based on what he said as I'm reading it here, we are eliminating the glamping, camping, short-term rental uses of the property. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that the public understands that this special use permit is only good for 1 year, and if it doesn't work out, it can be revoked. Is that correct, Ms. Duncan?
I don't believe that's one of the conditions at this point in time.
Right. So I would add a tiny clarification to that. What I would say is we will make a 1-year inspection, and if there at that time, if there are conditions that are not complied with, we can bring them back to the board for a show cause hearing. Also, in regard to condition number 11, again, to just represent that we have heard the concerns from the adjacent property owners. If we continue to get complaints about visitors to the property straying on parcels that are not involved with this use, or if we continue to get complaints about horses getting off the property, we can at any time bring the applicant back for a show cause hearing to reconsider the special use permit. We are not suggesting that you put a 1 year and require him to come back at 1 year, although that is a condition if it is the will of the board to impose that. We have done that in the past, but generally speaking, staff has gotten away from that and requiring people to come back at certain intervals, and instead we use our inspection at the 1 year interval, and we bring people back who are not compliant at that time with their conditions.
Yeah. In the past, we have had 1 year, 3 year, 5 year approvals,
Correct.
but we've gotten away from that in the last few years and left it up to staff to assure that the conditions are being met. Any other discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Planning and Zoning Board, S 2023-58 comes to you with the conditions 1 through 6, 11 and 12, with a unanimous recommendation for approval.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, S 2023-58 with the conditions therefore mentioned, do we have a motion?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve S 2023-58 with the stipulations being the recommended and findings and stay in place 1 through 6, and also 11 and 12. This is to be only a equestrian facility, and is to remove the agritourism, which is glamping and camping for future use. No short-term rentals.
I second the motion, sir.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Motion passes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fletcher, we wish you the best going forward on this. I think you've
Mr.
got a
Fletcher,
good program there.
Point of order, real quick. One moment, please. Mr. Fletcher, just everybody 1 moment, please. Just, I hope, because you hear these people that you've come into, this community you come into has been a lifelong community. And I hope and pray that all of you become great neighbors. I love your dream. I used to also be the chair of the DFACS board. I understand the troubles of these children. 16 years of youth ministry, 16 years of youth baseball coach. I'm very invested in my youth. So I pray that your facility works out, but I just plead that you keep in mind your neighbors that surround you, because they have lived there for a very long time. And like I said, that community is a very family-like community.
Yes, sir.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is, who has it? Phil? Mr. Schaefer?
Next item, Mr. Chairman, is special use S 2023-60. DRJ Land Company, requested action, request for a special use permit for a convenience store with gas pumps located at 10200 Veterans Memorial Highway, Lithia Springs, land lot 316, District 18, Section 2, and parcel 4. It's 3.92 acres. Property is located on northwest corner of US Highway 78, Veterans Memorial Highway, and State Route 6, which is Thornton Road. Veterans Memorial Highway frontage portion of the site partially developed with an office structure and detached garage structure built sometime around 1980, most recently serving as used car dealerships. There's also a residence on the north side of the property fronting at 3100 Peachtree Street with a number of attached storage structures built around 1968. The proposal is requesting permission to operate a convenience store with gas pumps along with additional by right retail businesses to be housed in a separate structure from the convenience store with appropriate parking and access from Thornton and Veterans Memorial. The the proposition does not raise planning concerns for us in terms of this business being granted permission to operate the convenience store with gas pumps at the location, other than complying with the general requirements and architectural requirements of the overlay district, since this is still in the highway corridor overlay at that particular intersection. And then the UDC section 422 addressing specific improvements for the site. The property was had a number of requests in years gone by for rezoning. More recently, Z 1995-09 to zone from the property to C4, which C4 eventually became CH as we redid the zoning code. It's currently car dealerships, used car dealerships. It's been that way for a number of years. Here's the zoning map for the property showing that surrounding it is basically commercial. Even the yellow zoned property that fronts Veterans, which you can see below the property, even that though still has commercial businesses on it. One's a church and the other's vacant right now. But the majority of land around it is commercial, and so it does not have an issue with us for becoming a different kind of commercial development from what it is currently, which is used cars, as you can see from our aerial image. This is a survey of the property showing the existing buildings and garages, and this is the site plan for the project itself. A little hard to see. This is the rendering for the actual convenience store. In the top sort of middle right is the retail section, which would be in a separate business office, business building, and the convenience store would be in the front with the gas pumps with the parking. Branding is Circle K. And then here is a draft rendering of what might become the eventual retail strip center with parking in front. They have approval for access from Veterans currently. There is additionally, I was told that there's access being approved for a right-in, right-out on Thornton directly for the retail property itself, so that you'll see that as well. This is the current entrance into the used car dealership lot off Thornton. As you can see, there's an actual deceleration lane already developed for the site. Some additional landscaping would be required, and the project would have to go through DRC review for the development standards to be reviewed and met by the developer. Staff reviewed the conditions, the criteria for the special use request, and finds that it meets all the criteria for the special use request. We're recommending approval with the following findings: that the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. Granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Just a few conditions here. The development of the convenience store and retail center will be subject to the requirements adopted under UD Section 352, video surveillance systems. Number 2, the applicant shall be required to connect to the public sewer system for this development with design criteria and specifics to be reviewed for compliance by our Douglas County WSA. And number 3, the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration of the specific site development and access management plans to address our development standards in the UDC and the concerns or requirements expressed in specific agency impact statements reviewed by in the staff report dated September 6, 2023. And again, since it's a special use permit, we're asking you to direct us at the anniversary to go out, verify all the conditions were met. If they're not, as Duncan pointed out earlier, we could always bring them back for a show cause hearing if something were to go amiss. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, that would like to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. We have 15 minutes allocated, 2 minutes per person. If you would state your name and address for the record before you start, sir.
Mike Lokhinwala, and I live in Lawrenceville, Georgia, 1553 Sabre Creek Drive.
Okay, what would you like to say to us?
Mr. President, Chairman, members of the board, my fellow citizens, and my clients, thank you for giving me this time to speak in reference to this application. My clients are proposing the redevelopment of this used car lot, which is located on the intersection of Thornton Road and Veterans Memorial, into a 14,000 square feet retail space to be be spread over 2 separate buildings. We have received preliminary approval from several national brands, including Circle K, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Fazoli's, the Italian chain, a local hardware store chain that wishes to remain undisclosed at this time, and a few more brands, all or some of which may be flagged on this property here if approved. My clients are eager and excited at the same time to bring these conceptuals into a reality with your support. Thank you for the consideration.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes after you give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is LaDonna Smiley. My address is 219 Ben Martin Trail in Henry County. I am the listing agent for 10200 Veterans Memorial. I represent the seller. We had 6 different offers on this property, and all of them were for gas stations. So it seems like that is the use that needs to be at this intersection. And just so you know, I tried to find other uses, but everyone seems to think that there's a gas station that's supposed to go here. Mr. Sikander has put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this, and my client really wants to see it be passed for him because he spent a lot of time on this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one, one thing before I close the public hearing, you've heard the conditions that were read into the record. Are you and your client in agreement with those conditions, sir? Okay. That was an affirmative, if you didn't hear it on the speaker. I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. Seeing no one moving at this point in time, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the comments and discussion. Do you have any questions of the representative or of the staff?
Chairman Rob Thomas, I have a question for the representative. Hello. So are you the developer, or
Yes,
what's
sir.
your role? You developer in this
Yes,
project? Okay. Is it currently on sewer over there? I'm just curious as to
It is,
the
yes.
impact.
Yes.
It is currently on
I
sewer?
believe so, yes.
Okay. All right, so I don't think it was, but you're saying, you think it is, or you sure?
If it's not, then we found that it's right across the street from wetlands.
Okay,
under the
so not too
property,
far,
which
you
will
think
not
it's
be
not there?
water.
It'll be on sewer. It's
Yeah,
not now.
because you know it has to be on sewer
Yeah.
as part of it. Okay, so it's not, that won't be an issue.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Chad Choi, 5227 Chevrolet, Suwanee, Georgia. I'm actually a contractor that site visit and trying to give a solution, like where the power lines are, where the sewer lines are. So they do have a sewer manual like nearby. But you have to cross the street.
Okay, so it's cross street. That's what I thought. I didn't think it was actually on the property. So how far have you gotten so far with your plans? I'm just curious as to the overall plan. Are you still preliminary? You been to PRC yet? DRC yet, have you? Or is it just
Yeah, we're just preliminary with the conceptuals.
Okay, so it's a conceptual plan at this point, with rendering, but no approval, anything like that, no permits or anything like that has been done?
Nothing.
Okay, it's just conceptual at this point?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And what's the square footage of the retail part of it?
Approximately
Just the retail
8,000.
part.
It's the convenience store with the fueling station is approximately 6,000 square feet, and the other retail is 8,400 square feet approximately.
All right. And I see your entrance. You got one off of Thornton Road, and then is the other one gonna be off of Veterans Memorial? Or how's it?
So, yeah, there's one entrance on Veterans Memorial, and there is a right-of-way map which has been proposed by the DOT at this point. It's not fully negotiated and approved, but they have plans that are out there.
So you got quite a bit to do at
Yes,
this
sir.
point. You just
Yes,
it's
sir.
preliminary at this
Correct.
point. Okay. All right. So you just need a special use for the convenience store. And this, and I guess maybe for staff, this is strictly because of the pumps, because of the gas station part of it. If you want to put just some, retail spaces there, it'd been fine, but because we're going with the gas station, that's where the special use comes in.
In order to require all convenience stores get special use permits before they can be.
Okay. Is it convenience stores because of the gas pumps or just convenience stores in general?
I can't tell you precisely why the commissioners voted for the text amendment as to what was in each of their mind, but as a result of problems within convenience stores themselves in general.
Okay.
And the locating of those particular types of businesses,
Okay.
along with the location of dollar stores and the problems that go along with those, both of those particular uses are now required to get special use permits in order to confirm compatibility at each location going forward.
All right. So it's not just because of gas
It's not
stations?
just the gas.
Just convenience
All of
stores, Dollar General?
all the issues
all those.
involved.
Okay, gotcha. I just want to see why we here. Okay, so I get it now. I yield. That's the only question I had.
Any other questions or comments, planning and zoning board?
Yes, this, or Corey, yes. Sir. Now, I know we've heard, I know you said gas stations, and I know that we've heard a lot of things that's going on. And I mean, how are you going to deal with security, lighting for that facility? That may be something question for you versus him. So I know that, you know, that has always been a concern when you have these type of convenience stores as well as stores and gas stations. How are you going to deal with the security portion? Now, we're in the preliminary phase, but I know that's going to be something that you're going to be dealing with. Yes.
Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
So again, we have already been approved with the franchise. You know, it comes in with standard SOPs and built out. So Circle K is a national chain, but of course we're still in the very preliminary stages. So if there are additional requirements for lighting purposes, but you know, we have with Circle K brands, they're beyond requirements, generally speaking, when building convenience stores. So that's the lighting question. Just to
And security as well. So that would come with that. Okay.
Security,
Camera.
Do you have anything to add as an operator?
That will all be handled in DRC, won't it? You have to make sure it complies with our Unified Development Code.
Skander Ali, and I reside in Snellville, Georgia, 522 Grassmead Way. As far as security is concerned, the modern day, all our convenience stores, we have typically 32 cameras, high resolution, and we have multiple employees watching for the safety of the customers. And we don't suspect any issue. This is a good neighborhood that we are in, but we are going to take all the precautions that we have to make sure the site and the customers are safe.
Okay.
I have one quick other question. Veterans Memorial, especially Thornton Road, is really heavy with semi-traffic. And, you know, we have a lot of trucks up and down that road. Will they have access to this facility?
So we are hoping for full access, and that's what the preliminary DOT plans had showed us. We are yet to confirm that, but we are hoping for full access of 278 as well as veterans.
I'm saying for trucks. I mean, for example, I noticed you had two separate pumps. Like you had maybe a diesel pump and then a regular. So we have gas accessibility for the trucks as well?
Yes, the curb cuts that we are hoping to get from 278, as long as the DOT allows it, there will be a big size, a good size, where all the semi-trucks and the trailer trucks can get in and get out. And we have designed our plans, even though they are preliminary, based on, because we see there is a lot of diesel trucks driving there, and they don't have any good place where they can stop in and fill in diesel.
Okay. I mean, you're on almost 4 acres, so I guess you got the the land to do it. I'm just curious. 'Cause your rendering didn't look like it was set up for trucks, but you're saying you will have
Yeah,
access.
these are very preliminary. We were hoping to pass this hurdle first
Mhm.
and then get into the civil plans
Okay.
after this.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for questions you folks may have.
Thank you. Commissioners, you have any comments or questions? Commissioner Roberts?
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the applicant. I do acknowledge the veterans, Highway 6, truck traffic, I get it. I appreciate the redevelopment, the reinvestment, got it. That was something that was strategic, that is part of our overlay. Got it. So here's my question. I need Director Rana, are you out there? Suleiman.
He was probably asleep.
I know.
Good evening, Board.
Good
Yes, sir, I'm
evening.
here.
So, welcome. Real quick, the Board of Commissioners made a recent decision regarding that area. Can you explain the impact of that? Explain what we just did early this morning and how this impacts that immediate area, if it at all.
Yes, sir. They are in very close proximity. There's a new quadrant road proposed by Georgia Department of Transportation just across the street on Thornton Road, which would add 2 new intersections, displace left turns from this very intersection. Basically, there's no direct impact to that project, but access management would be very tricky on this project because we're trying to eliminate conflict points and smoothen out the through movement, and that's what we'll be working with the developers in the DRC process.
In the DRC process, got it. Last question is that there was some consideration for the state awarded $34 million. We're going to do truck-friendly lanes going down Thornton Road, buying right-of-way and access all the way down to I-20. Is that still in play, and do they understand that was potentially an exposure point?
Sir, unfortunately for that project, it reached a no-build conclusion. So that truck-friendly or truck-dedicated lane won't be coming down Thornton Road anymore. However, we're still working with GDOT and ARC to reallocate some of those funds towards Douglas County and other projects along Thornton Road.
Got it. Duly noted. Just full disclosure. Pay attention. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner. You said you're going to have diesel pumps, right, for trucks? Are they going to be separate from the car diesel, or?
Yes, that's.
It's going to be a truck stop. Is that what you're
There's
trying
going
to?
to be a mini truck stop, so it's going to have a different canopy for diesel trucks and
Okay.
separate canopy for the pumps.
Yeah, that's important. Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Roberts.
Yeah, one more time. So they mentioned the security cameras, and thank you for bringing that up. I think it was Curry. Question, Allison, the Board of Commissioners recently passed legislation and tell me how is it compatible? Would they automatically be required to be compatible with our new legislation regarding camera systems? I get what they're doing, but go ahead.
So in regard to the legislation that was passed, the trigger for the legislation that was passed is the Sheriff's Department reports an event that happens on that property that falls under the criteria of a Part 1 crime. So it is my hope that they would not be compatible. It is my hope that they do not have crime
We'll
on this
get there.
property. You could make it a condition of approval to have a camera system in place and to comply with the requirements of the ordinance, but just coming directly from the zoning entitlement process here, we would not require them to fall into compliance until such a time as that compliance is triggered through a Part 1 crime happening on the property.
All right. So this is not, all right, so last question to that point. So, I mean, obviously, I'm on Riverside, I know everything about across the street back there on Fulton Industrial. All right, so my question becomes, is how much, I get the trucks. Are you gonna have parking or overnight, or can they pause, or are they just pumping up and they going? Are you gonna have where these trucks get to pause? They get to sleep, they can slumber, they get some food?
We are not, we're not considering park throughout the night. This is gonna be just grab and go, fill up and go, that kind of a situation. This is not gonna be a full-fledged truck stop like Pilot or something like that.
That's what I'll be concerned with in that area, since you say it's nice, and y'all know what that means. If you have that, there's an element with that. And you have to ask the honest questions. But you answered, we're not there, that's not the design, so then I yield. Thank you, sir.
Back to you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, folks. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion, the comments. Do I have a motion, please?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve S 2023-60, a request for a special use permit for a convenience store with gas pumps located at 10200 Veteran Memorial Highway, Litchfield Springs.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Board Curry, second.
And one addition there, does that include the conditions?
And condition findings and conditions.
Is that good with you?
I second.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion on the motion?
I had one question, a discussion. Will they need to come back through for anything else, or just the DRC takes it from here?
DRC takes it from here unless there's, at the anniversary visit, there's some condition that they have not complied with.
Thank you.
Or if we find that they are subject to the video surveillance issue where something else happens. Which we hope doesn't.
I think they commented that they were required to have cameras from the vendor that they're going to work with, right? Any other discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, all in favor of approving S 2023-60 with the conditions, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Mr. Chairman, S 2023-60 comes to the Board of Commissioners with a fully unanimous recommendation for approval.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, S 2023-60 with the conditions that you heard. Do I have a motion? Yes, sir.
I motion to approve S 2023-60 as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board with its conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? We are unanimous, sir. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Having nothing else to come before the Planning and Zoning Board, Board of Commissioners, tonight I will declare the Planning and Zoning Board adjourned. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I declare the Board of Commissioners and Zoning Board